Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the FAB Unofficial YouTube channel. For you guys that don't know me, my name is Aaron. You may have seen me on a couple videos on Channel Fireball, not of my own accord. I'm a pseudo host for FAB with Matt. You guys will know Matt Rogers. But if you guys haven't already, you can check out the Instagram page at Flesh and Blood TCG, or there is a FAB Unofficial Facebook page. There's not a ton up there yet, although I did do some 5th edition crew box breaks, like 6 of them, which turned out to be insane value for anybody that bought into those, so congratulations to you. But yeah, welcome to my YouTube channel. I anticipate this being the place where I can talk, film, and just discuss everything FAB related, from event coverage to deck techs. I'll do a little bit of product opening, but probably not a ton. There's already so many great channels doing a bunch of product opening, but we will see. With Monarch first coming out, I definitely plan on cracking a few packs, so whether that will be here on YouTube or on the Instagram, I'll let you guys know. But anyway, most of you won't know me, so I figured what better way for you guys to get to know me than doing a deck tech of my favorite hero, favorite class. This is going to be Blitz. But of course, the hero I am talking about is none other than Viserai himself. Will it focus? There we go. The Rune Blade hero. Now, that class is so sick. I've loved them since I first saw the class come out. Now, for you guys, many of you will have started back in WTR, some in Arc. I actually picked up the game for the start of Crucible spoiler season. So I was introduced to the 8 heroes all together at once, and was able to look over WTR and Arc. I had no history of what was good competitively, but yeah, I was just drawn to Rune Blade. It's such a fun class. There's always so many decision trees and different things that you can do, different ways of attack, and I really feel like it can move in and out of a more aggressive to a controlling game plan, and I think it attacks in a way with the Runechant that no other hero is able to. So it's just a bunch of fun, and I actually think it can be competitive, although clearly not Ira level or maybe Kano or Warrior, but it's definitely a tier 2 deck, and depending on how you play your matchups, I definitely think you can have some success with it in tournament play. But yeah, I figured what better way for you guys to get to know me than to run you through my current build of my favorite class, Viserai Blitz deck. But yeah, all right, let's get started. Okay, so here's the deck. This is the basic map out. Now I'll go over the equipments and weapons, etc. A little bit later, but you'll be able to tell it's a little bit different. It is not an OTK deck. I want to actually play spells because that's what's fun, or should I say actions and attack actions. But there are some very interesting card choices which I'll go a little bit more in depth. Notably, and one of my favorite points is obviously the 5 tomes. Tomes in this game have that sick legendary feel to them, and I just wanted to jam as many of them into the deck as possible, regardless of if it was right or not. But yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, now before I touch on the specific card choices, etc., I want to show you guys through the weapon suite. As you can see, my weapon of choice in most matchups is going to be Nebula Blade. It's what the deck is built around utilizing a little bit more. I'm not an OTK deck. I don't care about people gaining a little bit of life from Sigil, and I feel like the Tome of Fyendal has sort of drifted away, especially in Blitz. You're not getting as many people running the Mage Master Boots combo, etc. So I don't worry about that. I want to be attacking him for 4, forcing either the use of a defense reaction or threatening an extra Runechant, sorry. Now I'm actually noticing one thing that's missing from here is the Arknight Skullcap. That's generally the headpiece that I'm going into battle with. Block 2, then block 1 is just so good in so many matchups. Blocks a second Kodachi or a first Kodachi, so it gives you multiple attempts to break up that chain. Then the namesake legendary, Grasp of the Arknight, really important to getting going early, and in this build you'll notice you actually use it a lot more just to pitch, make a Runechant, and then come in for an attack to sort of split up your offense and just trying to chip away at their life total. Bloodsheath Skeleta, absolutely insane. Like, this card is so good and it leads to so many busted turns. At instant speed you can pop it, makes your next action and attack action cost less according to however many Runechants you have, and there's a ton of sick stuff you can do in this deck, especially with Rattle Bones and big turns with Oath of the Arknight into Arknight Ascendancy. And then finally, Mage Master Boots. You saw that we're playing 2 Tome of Fyendals. Obviously this is just such a good combo with that card, setting the tome in arsenal, then being able to pop Mage Master, flip, gain a bunch of life, and go off, whether on an offensive or on a bit of a combo turn, setting up Runechants. Underneath that, I am playing the Reaping Blade. To be honest, I haven't maxed out my equipment slots. I don't really bring it in. It's just not necessary, but it's just pretty to have a cold fall in your deck box. Now, and then you can see the 4 pieces of Arcane Barrier. The crown, obviously the ability is okay, but we don't have a way to abuse and gain an extra action point for that. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky. It's mainly just in there for the Arcane Barrier with a second utility if this situation arises when you're versing against a wizard. And then you have the robe, gloves, and boots give the option to go up to the full Arcane Barrier 4. But in most Kano matchups, I'm keeping in the Bloodsheath Skeleta. So that's just because the ability to sack and pop and play stuff for free allows you to actually have a really explosive turn out of nowhere, or put the pressure on early, which you need to do versus Kano. And equally, the way it works is when you don't have to pitch to play cards, you obviously get to keep those cards in your hand, which allows you to use those to pitch to prevent Arcane anyway. And in this deck, Arcane Barrier 3 tends to work out better resource-wise anyway. But there are some builds of Kano which I've played where, you know, depending on how the tournament's going or the armory or who you're sitting down next to, maybe you want that Nullrune Robe, and there's definitely room for it in the sideboard. So yeah, there. Now look at that, and don't forget Arcanite Skullcap is in that equipment suite. I forgot to put him in. It's currently in my warrior deck, but yeah, there's a list down below which I'll put there so you guys can check that out too. Alright, so next up we have Oath of the Arknight. Now you'll see 2 of each color. This is super important. This is the centerpiece of this deck. So the main combo with Nebula Blade, which is just super consistent pressure. You don't need a ton to pull it off. You're still able to block and apply some pressure. So Oath of the Arknight's great because 1, it's an action, so it can start the chain for Viserai, but also it's a Runeblade card, so you can create extra Runechants off it. It itself makes a Runechant, which is really important because this generally comes before the attack, so that's an additional damage there. And then obviously the blue, yellow, and red add an additional 1, 2, or 3 power to your next Runeblade attack. So obviously you guys are very familiar with pumps on attack actions. The key part of this is it also pumps Nebula Blade. So if you play an Oath and then attack with the Nebula Blade's naturally 4 power anyway, because Oath is an action, and then it will get the additional bonus. So even with a blue Oath, if you go blue Oath into Nebula Blade, that Nebula Blade is coming in for 5, and you're popping off at least 1 Runechant. Now that's really key because obviously most defense reactions outside of unmovable are going to block for 4, so you're going to be able to get a chip damage in and create another Runechant, or they're going to be forced to block with 2 cards in basically every scenario outside of specifically unmovable. And Flick Flack does not work against this. You'll notice there's not a ton of go again. the way this plays out versus Ira is you're actually able to go all in, and it feels like multiple attacks because you have a couple Runechants and an attack going at the same time, but you're not splitting up combat, so they're not able to utilize that extra +2 on the defense from Flick Flack. So Flick Flack just is what it is, which is fine. Now, the other important thing with this is obviously Arknight Ascendancy. You are playing 2 of them in the deck. It is Dominate. The higher you can buff this, the better, and you're able to get this to 8 power, threaten a bunch of damage. And what I really like about this build is, other than the OTK, in the OTK often when people have played an Arknight Ascendancy, they haven't chipped away anything, so the opponent still has the full equipment suite, able to block up to 7 potentially, most times 4 to 5, and it just sucks all the gas out of Arknight Ascendancy's effectiveness. In this deck, you're able to apply pressure, force them to use their equipments in places, and try and set up Red Oath of the Arknight into Arknight Ascendancy for an 8 power Dominate that's going to threaten a ton of damage on the following turn as well. Really, really good, and I found it's way more effective when you're doing it that way around. But yeah, that's the key part of the deck right there. But we do have some pretty interesting other packages going on too. As you'll see next up, we have the attack suite. Now, a lot of people were enamored by the cost reduction attacks that Runeblade have, and they are good, but for reasons I'll explain, I've focused more around the 3 main 4 power 1 resource cards in Spellblade Strike, Meet and Greet, and Consuming Volition. Now, it's just really efficient for 1 resource to come in for 4. Now, Spellblade Strike and Meet and Greet threaten to make another Runechant, and Consuming Volition forces them generally to pitch to prevent the Runechants or have a defense reaction. So again, you're trying to get them to use multiple cards. Now, the reason why I really like this, one, the 1 cost works really well with Oath of the Arknight, which you saw on the other slide. Obviously, to play Oath into the 1 cost attack is just 3 resources, so a pitch blue gets that done, and you threaten a bunch of damage. So it's super, super easy, all off 3 cards, which again allows you the freedom to block on the previous turn. But next up, as you can see, it plays so well with Rattle Bones. So again, a pitch blue allows you to Rattle Bones and come back in with a 4 power 1 cost attack. Because Rattle Bones is an action, you'll also make another Runechant off the attack action, but you can do some really tricky things, which is awesome, where if you're able to attack with the 1 cost attack and they take an arcane, even though your card doesn't have go again, if they take one of the Runechant damage, then you're able to play Rattle Bones at instant speed after the combat chain is closed and the attack's gone to the graveyard, and then because it has go again, on an instant you gain another action point, which means you're then able to replay the attack that you targeted with Rattle Bones. And this is where the Bloodsheath Skeleta stuff comes in, because it's really good when you just Bloodsheath at instant and you're able to play the Rattle Bones potentially for free or at a reduced cost, and then generally you can play the attack, at least a 1 cost attack for free, or some of the others as well, which is just so good. So there's so many busted lines that you can play here. Now, we've got 2 Meet and Greet blues in there. They're mainly pitch 3, block 3, that also work for all the same reasons, the other 1 cost attacks. And then the other attacks I'm playing, 2 Drawn to the Dark Dimension blue, again, pitch 3, block 3, Spellblade Assault, which is really good because it itself makes 2 Runechants. So really early on or in the middle of the game, you're able to sort of stagger your turns and keep applying pressure on them, which is great. Now, the attack, which although it's a mythic and it's in Crucible, so it's kind of a little bit more expensive, I actually really dislike. It's Dread Tryptch. It costs 3, which is a ton, and it only comes in for 4, and you have to meet so many conditions to be able to gain all those extra Runechants. I have one in there. It's mainly another blue. In this deck there's 16 blues, and I really like it with 16 blues, so that's just in there as the 16th, but you do want the extra attack because you also want to make sure you have enough attack, so which you'll see on one of the next cards, the Become the Arknight. You have enough attacks to be able to pitch to go search up key actions like Mordred Tide or Read the Runes, etc. Plus it's there so you don't run out of gas. You do have a few other options, and then obviously the other attack which you saw on the previous lot of cards is the Arknight Ascendancy. So yeah. Now the funniest card is the random one-off blue Mauvrion Skies. Now yeah, it's another blue. I wanted it. I do really like having one in there to be able to give your attacks go again naturally and threaten an extra one. It's come in and out, and this is the kind of flex slot. It's a block 2, which I don't really like, but having it in there have been times when I've searched it up with the Become the Arknight and been able to chain into a much more aggressive turn because of it giving your next Rune Blade attack action go again. This can kind of be whatever you want it to be, but I like this, and I like the extra action. Sometimes you just want to play one and turn it into a Runechant or something later on as well, which is perfectly fine. But it does play really nice with the drawn. Playing the Mauvrion Skies into a drawn makes a Runechant, and you draw a card off the drawn, and then they're stuck in this situation where they have 1 melee damage and 1 arcane coming their way, and they kind of have to decide what they want to do, knowing full well that you've got go again and you've just drawn a card. So it's kind of cool with that, but yeah, it's kind of a flex slot. Feel free to play whatever you want with it. Okay, now this right here is why I love this deck so much, and it leads to so many explosive stuff. You get to play 5 tomes. 5 tomes. They're obviously the sickest cards in FAB. Like, they have all this lore around them. Fyendal, Tome of the Arknight, Ang, Gorganian Tome. They're just really cool cards. Now, should they be in the deck? I don't know. I really like them, obviously. They have a bunch of synergies. Tome of the Arknight can be hard to make work, but as you'll see, we have the 2 red Sutcliffe research notes, which allow you to peek at the top of your deck and rearrange so you can hit off your tome and draw the 2 cards. And in that situation, it's absolutely busted. And then we have the blue Whispers. So this just gives you, again, you can sort of take a little peek and try and set up or know if you want to use the tome. But yeah, and again, both these extra cards are just actions, so they're able to start your chain and allow you to start making Runechants. And at the very worst, Tome is a blue pitch, so you can pitch it to play a card and then actually follow it up on your next turns or in the same turn by pitching an attack action and a non-attack action. And in Blitz you go through your deck way quicker, so you're able to sort of set up this turn where if you're able to track that, you know that those 2 cards are coming, so it can sort of set up to be a really busted turn in the late game. Both of those cards also work with the Gorganian Tome, where you're able to peek, set up the top of your deck, and with the tome you're able to play that and draw the card if you need, or otherwise you're able just to start the chain. Now, this was an Arknight shard for a long time. I don't really like having too many cards in the deck that can't block. I think 1 is about fine. But I found I much rather have the Gorganian Tome, which is able to start off the chain of making Runechants for free as it replaces itself, over having the Bullet Pitch 3 that can like just make 1 Runechant. Again, that's personal choice. I think it could go either way in this deck. I really like this card, and I feel like it should be played a little bit more, if not just because the art is amazing. And then lastly, the last two tomes, obviously Tome of Fyendal, again, allows you to gain life, really important in the wizard matchup, set up really big turns, and you have the Mage Master Boots to give it go again, so you can set it in your arsenal, crack boots, play Tome of Fyendal, gain 4 to 5 life, and just have the big turn from there. But yeah, outside of that, we're coming to the last few cards of the deck, the final core pieces, which basically every Rune Blade deck has been playing. You have the Become the Arknight, again, pitch 3, block 3, and the ability to tutor and search for whatever side of the combo or cards that you want. Really, really good. And then the combination, which has been well known for a while, Mordred Tide into Red Read the Runes. Mordred Tide is just, it allows the full combo turns. On the turns when you're able to set up like a Mordred Tide into a Tome of the Arknight, or a Sutcliffe Research Notes into a Tome of the Arknight, and get a bunch of, and potentially follow it up with any attack, it's just so good. Or if you're on the play and you're able to start with Mordred Tide into the Red Read the Runes, it's just such a good start, because you're able to delay applying that pressure to a turn where they're actually going to have to pay cards, as opposed to on the first turn where they get to block or pitch for free and then replenish. Red Read the Runes, I don't play the yellows or the blue. I feel like for an action that doesn't have go again, and you're just making 2 or 1, doesn't have enough impact outside of that. But the Red Read the Runes, so good, being able to block up on a turn and then just play that, or setting up for a combo turn with the Mordred Tide and finishing with the Red Read the Runes. It has some play where you're also able, with the Mauvrion Skies that's in the deck, or with a go again off Rattle Bones, you're able to sort of set up this turn where they think something else is coming, but you can also just follow it up with the Read the Runes to put them in a little bit of a tricky spot. And then the final card, you'll notice it's been missing, which a lot of people like this, and I think it's such a good card, but it's the Reduce to Runechant. The card is obviously great, but my build's more mid-range and aggro style. You want to be applying pressure, and having too many defense reactions in your deck is just not good. So the one red Reduce to Runechant allows you to have a little bit of game against Zephyr Needle. In tournament play, obviously people start to piece together your deck, and if they don't see Reduce to Runechant or defense reactions, then they're going to be able to start siding that in, and that's a ton of pressure that you don't want. So having the one does allow you to keep them honest. It's also good versus Warrior, but again, too many of them I felt just sort of took away your tempo and led to too many dead turns, because obviously you cannot pitch it to the Become the Arknight. It's, you know, it's not an action or an attack action, so it doesn't really work. It's a dead hit off Tome of the Arknight, so there are situations where you just want to play that as an action, and if that's on top, you don't totally miss the opportunity to just get a blind hit. It doesn't play with Mordred Tide, so I felt like one is right. Again, that's been a flex, so I've taken the one in and out for another Mauvrion Skies, but right now I've split 1 and 1. But that's up to you if you guys want another one. I guess that other Mordred Tide could become a blue if you wanted it, or potentially a red if you really decided you wanted to go down to 15. But yeah, that's the deck. So awesome. Let me know what you guys think. I love this deck. It's a ton of fun. And just hit up in the comments below and tell me if there's any changes you would make, or if you have any ideas after you've played the deck. I'm happy to hear them. I love them. Like I said, you can message me on Instagram at Flesh and Blood TCG, or hit me in the comments, or on our Facebook page, which is FAB Unofficial. Yeah, let me know. And guys, yeah, look forward to plenty more videos. You know, right now we've managed to get the one little poster up on the wall, but I'll be planning to get this place out and have a ton more ready to go on this channel. So yeah, look forward to it. All right, guys, until next time.